CRISPR gene editing tech has a major medical breakthrough. I'm Marco Perry. Welcome to the Perry Platform. At this point in human history, we're no stranger to breakthrough scientific discoveries, and today we have a new one to talk about. It's the developing capability to play with genes and DNA through CRISPR technology. Now, CRISPR is just an acronym. That is CRISPR, and stands for Clustered Regularly Interspaced Short Palindromatic Repeats. And if you were to ask me what each of those words mean, I can probably figure out some of them, but palindromatic repeats, I have no idea, for example. But I'll explain to you what combined these things mean in the amalgamation of CRISPR tech. So first of all, CRISPR really is a family of DNA sequences. Today, we use it for a few things. First, it's a way of finding a specific bit of DNA inside a cell. So as you may know, a DNA strand, it can have information about a variety of things. It can talk about your height, your eye color, what diseases you're going to be predisposed to. All of these things and different parts of it influence different parts of the outcome. Now, when the CRISPR tech is able to find the proper sequence, it can do some stuff here. The CRISPR tech can directly go into that sequence of DNA and it can edit it. It can edit the bits and pieces that it has identified. And I will iterate, it's very important to be precise because as we just talked about, different pieces of the DNA strand influence different things that appear in your body. If it, by accident, started to edit the wrong parts of the DNA strand, the results could be catastrophic, so this tech has to be held with the highest safety regard. So as we just talked about, it can actually edit those parts of the DNA. It can make it send a signal that it otherwise wouldn't. And even if you don't want to edit something per se, this tech has the power to turn certain functions on and off. If a DNA strand is emitting a certain type of message that you don't want it to emit, you don't have to edit it per se, you can just have it not send. Now, at some level, you do enter the realm of the divine with this type of science. Many people say it's like playing God, and I can see why. Once taken to its fullest extent, and I will note, the CRISPR tech that we're playing with today is just the tip of the iceberg. The end game of gene editing could make humans the true creators of themselves in a very profound way. I'm not talking about the creator of themselves where you simply mate and you create an offspring. I'm talking about controlling everything there. Creating the very details of what that offspring would look like. Complete control over the process. No more random chance. That comes with this CRISPR tech. Do you want orange hair? Well, forget about dyeing it. We can make it happen for you genetically. Do you want your child to be super capable and have an affinity for intelligence? Well, here you go. They can make that happen. In fact, there's actually been trials in China trying to figure out how you can implement this CRISPR tech when it comes to selecting certain traits for children. And the reaction that's got worldwide has been mixed. And we can even go further than that. Do you want to be tall? Well, here you go. You want to be beautiful? Here you go. All of these things are possible with CRISPR. Further, aside from just your physical and your intellectual traits, this can even be applied to things like a lifespan, indirectly through disease removal, and directly by simply allowing our cells to replicate for far longer than we've ever seen before. Now, in some sense, a naturally occurring death, not you getting run over or shot or something like that, is a function of your cells ceasing to effectively replicate. Maybe they've gotten too old, maybe they're damaged, maybe they're replicating in error. All these things can lead to your death, naturally. If you can slow that down, though, or even halt it, what becomes of us? Could you be dabbling with immortality? Maybe not that, but at the very least, you could be dabbling with a very, very lengthened lifespan. It's very interesting. I think one of the things that doesn't land properly with us right now is the realization that in only a couple of decades, we could be really having these type of breakthroughs where scientists are figuring out how to add 50, 100 years to your lifespan, how to eradicate the vast majority of diseases that plague our species for so long. It's something that is taken for granted maybe because of all the development that we've seen, and I'm going to talk about that more in a second. So, last week marked an important milestone in the CRISPR journey. In a medical first, researchers have injected a CRISPR drug into the blood of people born with a disease that causes fatal nerve and heart disease, and the results show that in 3 of them, it is a near complete shutoff of the production of the toxic protein that was causing these diseases by the livers. Scientists are understandably excited because this could be the dawn of a one-time treatment for numerous fatal conditions and diseases. Getting a one-time CRISPR injection, your DNA being rerouted to terminate the illness and you being good after that, that's a miracle. Now, on a related side note, some of the COVID vaccines that we have right now are actually based on messenger RNA, which is not the same as CRISPR tech. It's a different type of dealing with things at the genetic level, but in the near future, there is talk of combining these 2 approaches where you do make use of the messenger RNA, and you also have CRISPR aspects in that drug or treatment or whatever. Now, getting back to what we talked about before, these type of discoveries deserve massive recognition. Just how powerful humans have become as of late is something that we may not be fully realizing. We are on an exponential rise that only started maybe 100 years ago, and that's a drop in the bucket for the entirety of human civilization. Just 200 years ago, even, people would think you were an alien for talking about the things that we're talking about today, scientifically. Being able to edit DNA, traveling to Mars, doing all of these crazy things and these discoveries that we made not too long ago, it's mind-boggling. And that same confusion would extend to the other 99.99% of human existence. We are living in a good and exciting time period. Even given some of the issues we're dealing with, we have to put it into context here. There is a lot to be grateful for if you look at things holistically. Now, if you do have a negative mindset and you treat yourself as a hammer, then of course everything will look like a nail. You can find the bad in everything you're encountering and that can bring you down. But really, look at the facts of the matter here and how the world is rapidly progressing. The case for cynicism truly isn't there when looking at things holistically. Humanity has rapidly stretched themselves out of the darkness and we're moving towards a very bright future. Even though the darkness of the past is very daunting, the light that we're getting should be illuminating everything for you in this present moment. Now, with all the positives that I've talked about, it is only responsible to look at the other side of the equation. With this type of power comes a necessity for responsibility. Power can be a source of good or evil. It really depends on who uses it. And as a side note, that's one of the issues that I have with all of these crazy political recommendations that we're seeing as of late. You might think it's a good idea and it can be a force for good, but it is just a tool, many of these policies and powers that people want to give to the government. And in terms of how good it is or how bad it is, it depends on those who are in power and how they use it. The analogy I give here is you really don't want to give the government a certain type of power that you wouldn't want to see used against you, because the only dam that's keeping that power at bay is perhaps the individual who you like in government who you think will use it well. But there's no guarantee they'll be there forever. And when power shifts, do you still want a government who you don't agree with their thinking having the same tool you've bestowed to the other one? I'm not too sure that can be said for everything. Truly limiting scope of government is a good idea and keeping it to the bare minimum, things that we can all agree upon. When you play partisan games, you might end up with partisan outcomes, and that is a recipe for disaster. So back on topic now. On one hand, we can use CRISPR to cure diseases that have plagued humanity since the dawn of time. We can use it to create a generation of super healthy humans. We can make ourselves live longer. All good stuff, perhaps. Maybe there are some arguments against the living longer thing, I can see that. But generally speaking, good things to endeavor towards. Now, on the other hand, a bad actor. Think of all the things they could do with this tech. They could probably do the opposite of what we just talked about. They can figure out how to encode fatal diseases into people. They can turn that into a biological weapon. They can literally engineer a plague. They could wipe out the entire human race. And I'm sure CRISPR could even produce the first zombie with the right editing. I have no doubt. They do something to turn off your mental capabilities and you operate on instinct, and for some reason you have an appetite for humans now. It does sound like fantasy, I will grant you that, but CRISPR tech is crazy, and its potential is so vast we barely understand it. Although this may sound like some far-fetched idea right now, I guarantee you it's something that's within the capability of CRISPR technology. And it's something to keep your mind on. How things can go bad. A responsible scientist and citizen would always see both parts of the equation. Although a very promising field, we have to treat this study and this realm of science with the highest ethical standards possible. Fools shouldn't be able to say things like trust the science, none of that nonsense when it comes to CRISPR. I've actually had issues with that saying before because any self-respecting scientist would know that's not how the game works at all. You don't just trust the science, you actually debate the science, you try to find out why it's wrong. It's actually the opposite. Scientists never trust the scientist, or a good scientist would never trust the science. They're always trying to debunk things, try to figure out what's right, and try to improve upon it. You never assume that what you're hearing is the absolute truth in the realm of science. People have got it so backwards, and I do blame institutions like the WHO and the media for bringing this about. They clearly have no inkling as to what the scientific process really is about. It's about disproving science. It's about trying to figure out what the truth is and moving closer to it. And how you do that is through constant debate, vigorous examination, and trying to figure out how things are wrong or how they can go wrong. And we have to do the same with CRISPR tech. There shouldn't be any blind prophets here who are just coming up about and saying it's the best thing ever. Anyone who doubts it is an anti-CRISPR lunatic and whatnot. I fully see the benefits, and I spent the first half of the episode talking about it, but a responsible scientist would not be satisfied with just that. We need proof. We need debate. And in this realm in particular, we do need philosophical discourse. Try to figure out what's actually right and what's good for humanity, not just figuring things out for the sake of it. Is this the right direction that we want to be heading down? Your goal, as I've already stated, is to destroy science but factually. Not what the anti-vaxxers have done, try to destroy it with nonsense. There's a difference there, and you have to recognize it and respect it. If you cannot do that, then the science will reign supreme and it will not be a science anymore. It will be a form of religion now. And we don't want it to go there. I always give this funny example when the trust the science folk try to scream it from the rooftops. It would be very funny if, when was it, in the 17th century, when the current scientists of the time, they really thought that the Earth was the center of the universe, and there are people who were challenging that. Imagine those scientists yelling at those individuals, trust the science. So you do that, and you never get past the fact that, or the presumed fact that the Earth may be the center of the universe. That's not how this plays out. That's not how this game works. Science is not about blind trust. It's the opposite, actually. You try to challenge the fact that people do think the Earth is the center of the universe, and you have proof against that, you present it. And you take down the science and you replace it with something better. And you're not afraid of being right or wrong. It's not about that. It's about moving towards the truth. If you're wrong, then that's actually a good thing. Because now you know that there's something beyond that. Something to work towards, a better notion or theory to describe the phenomenon that you try to capture. If you're getting mad about your theory being proven wrong, you're not a good scientist. You don't actually care about the topic you're studying. You care about being right. And that's a trend we've seen in many fields of our lives today. Politics comes to mind, number one. Caring about being right versus the truth. We can't have that sort of ideology infect science, or we'll be in a very dark place very fast. At some level, I do wonder if we are truly ready for this dawn of CRISPR tech and gene editing and the implications that comes with. I look at the current state of affairs today, and I can say it doesn't inspire me, but I do believe we can get past this. We just need to have better conversations and get our core values down pat. Truly be talking at philosophical levels and understanding where we're trying to head as a civilization. And to move forward, we can't be hating each other anymore, based on political leaning or any other arbitrary factors. This is not how to go about being productive. I think I referenced it before. To really move forward and get at a place where we can handle the potential of science, we need to see ourselves as one race, the human race. As Earthlings, that's actually where we have to head. And it will take time to get there, but hopefully we have the right people in places of power to influence that shift, and not the opposite. The revitalization of tribalism and trying to find the in-group and fracturing the human race into smaller and smaller components, that is certainly not the way to go. So hopefully we can course correct at some point here. So with that, it now brings us to the end of our conversation for today. If you enjoyed the content, be sure to leave a review and share. That will help us grow. And you can find me online at perryplatform.org and on social media at perryplatform. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you soon.